Good morning, students. Welcome to biology class. In last class we have discussed about bryophytes, and in this class let us move to next concept of the plant kingdom, that is 3.3 division pteridophytes. Pteridophytes, you have to understand about the general characteristics or salient features. Salient features or general characteristics of pteridophytes. So what are these pteridophytes, what kind of plants, and what are their morphological and reproductive characteristics and their life cycle? This is what you have to understand in this class. Now just I will tell you what are the general characteristics or salient features of these pteridophytes. It means the whatever plants which are included under this pteridophytes, they have some basic characteristics, some common characteristics. You should understand about those characteristics. Okay. Now when we come to this pteridophytes, these pteridophytes are first vascular land plants. First vascular land plants. So this is what you have to understand here. These are the vascular land plants. First vascular land plants. The meaning of vascular land plants means they have tissues like xylem and phloem. These are the first plants to possess vascular tissues like xylem and phloem. Therefore, these plants are known as vascular plants or vascular land plants. So if you think of the previous plants, okay, previous divisions, that is bryophytes and algae, and those plants are non-vascular plants since they do not have these xylem and phloem tissues in them. And these two tissues have developed for the first time in these plants, therefore they are called as first vascular land plants. Since they are growing on the land, they are called as land plants. So I hope you are clear with this sentence. And one more thing is, these plants for the first time they have well organized and well differentiated plant body. So that plant body is differentiated into root, stem and leaves. So these are the first plants to have differentiated plant body. So that the plant body has root, stem and leaves. Okay, in previous plants, that is bryophytes and algae, plant body is not differentiated into these structures, but these are the structures which are first developed in these plants. Okay, so because of the development of these structures and the tissues, these tissues are present, and so that they are able to transport water, minerals to various parts of the plant body through these tissues, and also they can transport organic material from one part of the body to another part of the body. So that these are the first plants whose body is differentiated into these parts. And one more thing is, in these plants, when the leaves are concerned, some of these plants, some have smaller leaves. Some have smaller leaves. Some of these plants have smaller leaves. Okay, so that they are called as a microphylls. So micro means smaller, phylls means leaves. Some of these plants have a smaller leaves. In which plant these smaller leaves are present? For example, in pteridophyta like Salacinella. Okay, Salacinella is a pteridophyta which has got small leaves. Okay, this plant body Okay, this plant body which has got smaller leaves like this. Small leaves are present, and since these are called as microphyls, which are present in case of a Selaginella. Okay, Selaginella, small leaves are present, and some of these plants, some have larger leaves. Some have larger leaves. Okay, and such leaves are called as macrophylls. Macrophylls. You can understand the meaning here. Macro means larger, phylls, which I have already told you, the leaves. In which plant, in which Pteridophyte, these larger leaves are present, which are known as ferns, fern plants. So these are the plants which have got a larger leaves. So these are all, these two examples are very important even from the point of a NEET. So you may get a question in the NEET examination, which of the following Pteridophyte has smaller leaves, or which of the following Pteridophyte has larger leaves, and in this way they may ask a question in the examination. Okay, please remember the examples of these smaller leaves, examples of Pteridophytes for the smaller leaves and larger leaves. And in these plants, okay, main plant body in their life cycle, main plant body is sporophytic. Main plant body is a sporophytic here. Please remember, okay, main here in plants, whatever plants it may be, we have already discussed, I explained already. Okay, so this in plants, the alternation of generation is present. Okay, they have sporophytic stage in their life cycle as well as gametophytic stages in their life cycle. Okay, so this is sporophytic stage. One of the two stages is dominant one. Okay, in these plants, this sporophytic stage is a dominant stage of their life cycle. Okay, so main plant body is sporophytic, and which is diploid also. It is a diploid, sporophytic and diploid stage is present. Sporophytic means it is a diploid only. And sporophytic, which means it produces spores. These plants that can produce spores, and these spores are produced in a structure known as sporangia. Spores are produced in a structure known as sporangia. Okay, so they produce large number of spores. So these are the spores. Microscopic reproductive units are called as spores, and these spores are produced in a structure known as sporangia. So these are the structures which can produce spores. Now this is called as sporangia. So this structure is called as sporangia, bag-shaped structure in which large number of spores are produced. So in this way, these are the structures, sporangia, and in which spores are produced. These sporangia, what are these sporangia? Sporangia are the structures in which spores are produced. These are subtended by, so these are subtended by the leaves, which means they possess, these leaves have these sporangia, therefore leaves are called as sporophylls. Leaves are called as sporophylls. Why the leaves are called as sporophylls? Because these sporangia are developed on the leaves. So now if we think of, these are leaf-like structures, and on this leaf-like structure there are these sporangia are developed. So these sporangia are associated with the leaves, are subtended by the leaves, therefore these leaves are called as sporophylls. Now look here, so these are the structures, sporangia which contains spores, and these sporangia are subtended by the leaves, or they are associated with the leaves, therefore they are called as sporophylls. So I hope you are following what I am explaining here. Okay, this is in majority of the plants, the spores, sporangia are associated with the leaves. But in some plants, in some pteridophytes, so these sporangia are spirally arranged into a compact structure known as strobilus. Compact structure called as strobilus. Instead of so which are associated with this, okay, there is a formation of a structure known as strobilus, or there is a formation of a cone or cones. Cone shaped structures are formed, and this you can find in some of the plants like Selaginella, once again Selaginella, and one more is okay, Equisetum. Okay, these are the plants which have got cones. There is a formation of a compact structure. Okay, by these sporophylls, that compact structure is called as a cones or strobili are formed. So this is also very, very important from the point of a NEET. Okay, they may ask a question, in which of the following pteridophytes cones are formed? Okay, compact structures like cones are formed. Then you have to give these examples. Okay, so in this way, okay, Salaginella and Equisetum, they have got cones or strobili. And these spores, they get released, and there is a development of a spores. Later what happens, spores are developed into, after they release, they develop into, okay, gametophyte here. There is a development of a gametophyte that takes place from the spore. These spores are released and they develop into gametophyte. So now just you can understand, in the life cycle of these plants, there are two alternative stages, alternative generations. One is called as a sporophytic stage and another one is called as a gametophytic stage. This gametophytic stage is short living here. Gametophytic stage is short living and which depends upon the sporophyte only, and this gametophyte is called as prothallus. So this is called as prothallus. This is very, very important from the point of examination. Prothallus, which is this gametophytic stage, is called as prothallus. Prothallus is multicellular. It is also multicellular, independent living and green in color. So now this is gametophytic stage. This gametophyte or prothallus, which requires unique conditions. It requires specific conditions. Unique requirement is there for this. Unique requirement. So here we have to understand this. Unique requirement of prothallus. So this prothallus has some specific requirement. What is that specific requirement which is required for this prothallus? Which requires a damp place, okay, cool place, and water is required. Water is required for the transport of gametes. So because of this specific and unique requirement of the gametophyte, the distribution of pteridophytes are very, very limited to limited geographical area or narrow geographical area. You can understand, you have to understand the concept here. The plants will grow well, and when it comes to the gametophytic stage, that is called as a prothallus. Prothallus requires a special conditions here. These conditions, when they are available, next process will be continued, next its life cycle will be continued. If these conditions are not available to the gametophyte will not survive. Because of this specific reason, this is unique characteristic. Okay, so this distribution of this pteridophytes are restricted to narrow geographical area. Okay, I hope you have followed what I am explaining here. And this gametophyte, you can understand the meaning here. Gametophyte means this is the stage where it can produce gametes. Therefore, this stage of the life cycle of the plant is known as gametophytic stage, and it has male gametes, male sex organs as well as female sex organs. It has male sex organs called antheridium, male sex organ called antheridium, and female sex organ is called, okay, it has got a female sex organ. Okay, so that a female sex organ is called as archegonia. So like this, these are the male sex organ and female sex organs which are present on this gametophyte. So if you think of a gametophyte, if you take a gametophyte, okay, so this gametophyte will have male sex organs, okay, and also female sex organs. Both male and female sex organs are present here on the gametophyte. Okay, so this male sex organ antheridium is called as antheridium. This antheridium or male sex organ, it produces male gametes called as antherozoids. So these antherozoites are the male gametes. Similarly, Archegonium, it produces single egg. It produces single egg. These antherozoites are released in the water. You have to understand here. These antherozoites are the male gametes are released in the water, and they reach the mouth of the Archegonium, and later this antherozoites fuse with the egg, and there is a formation of a zygote. After fertilization, it develops into zygote. Okay, and this zygote later it develops into embryo. Okay, it develops into embryo. So this is what we can understand the process. This embryo develop into multicellular structure known as a sporophyte. It develops into sporophyte. So that life cycle will be continued once again here. This sporophyte is differentiated into, okay, this stem, root and leaf. In this way, life cycle completes. Okay, and one more very important aspect you have to understand regarding this pteridophytes. I have already told you these are all homosporous because they produce one kind of a similar type of a spores, but there are pteridophytes which produce two different types of spores, or they are also called as a heterosporos. There are some pteridophytes which are heterosporos. Okay, what are these pteridophytes which have two different types of spores? So they are called as example for this heterosporous. One is called as Selaginella, and another example is Salvinia. Selaginella and Salvinia are the two examples which have different types of spores. Okay, and even which is also very important from the point of a NEET. Okay, they may ask a question. And one more I wanted to clear is, one more thing which I wanted to clear you people is, you please observe the example for Selaginella. Here once again, example for Selaginella, example for Selaginella, example for Selaginella. Okay, Selaginella will have different characteristics. Selaginella have a microsporophylls. Selaginella is an example for the presence of a cones, and Selaginella is an example for the plant or pteridophyte which can produce a different types of spores. Okay, so now here heterosporous means they can produce two different types of spores. One is called as a microspores, and another one is called as a megaspores. Microspores and megaspores. So these microspores develop into male gametophyte, microspore develops into male gametophyte, megaspore it develops into female gametophyte. In this way, so these two are different from one another. Okay, so that they produce two different types of gametes. So this megaspore or female gametophyte, so this develops into female gametophyte. This female gametophyte is retained. It is not separated. It is retained in the sporophyte only. It is retained in the sporophyte. Here a little bit you have to understand the technical concept. You have to understand here. And one more thing is the zygote develops into young embryo. Here the zygote develops into young embryo in the female gametophyte, which is a precursor for seed habitat. So through which we can explain the evolutionary significance of these pteridophytes. So these are all various general characteristics or salient features of pteridophytes. And one more thing is you have to understand about the classification of pteridophytes. Okay, just I can write here the classification of pteridophytes. Pteridophytes can be divided into different classes. First one is Psilopsida. Example for Psilopsida is Psilotum. Another one is Lycopsida. Example is Lycopodium. And Selaginella, Spinopsida. Example is equisetum, and next one is called Pteropsida. Example is Diopteris, Pteris, and Adiantum. So these are three examples for this class. So like this we can classify pteridophytes into three different classes, and which have unique or specific examples. So with this the general characteristics of pteridophytes is over. Okay, one more thing, let us move to next one. After this pteridophytes, let's move to, that is, gymnosperms. So now children, let us move to next concept, that is 3.4 Gymnosperms. So gymnosperms are the plants, higher plants. Okay, now what are the salient features or general characteristics of these plants? You have to study the plants and you have to understand their characteristics. General characteristics means whatever plants which are included in this division, what basic characteristics or unique characteristics these plants possess. So now let us understand the first general characteristics of these plants. These are the plants, these are commonly known as naked seeded plants. So we can generally call by this word. What is the meaning of this naked seed? These plants have a naked seed. Okay, I think you can understand the meaning of a word naked, which means the seeds are not enclosed. Seeds are not enclosed by fruits. Enclosed by fruit or fruit wall, hence these are called as naked seeded plants. Seeds are exposed. Seeds are not covered by fruits. Okay, so therefore these plants are known as naked seeded plants. Then immediately you can come across a idea. You can think of some plants where the fruit is present and inside you can see the seed, and such plants are called as covered seeded plants and they are called as angiosperms. Okay, you can differentiate here gymnosperms and angiosperms. Both are seed bearing plants, but in case of gymnosperms no fruit is present. Seeds are not covered by fruits, but in case of angiosperms seeds are covered by a fruit. So therefore angiosperms are called as covered seeded plants and gymnosperms are known as naked seeded plants. And you know that very well, as far as their morphology is concerned, they are some small plants, small sized trees. Small sized trees are present in this gymnosperms. Small sized plants are present, and there are some tall tree species are also present. Tall tree species. So there are tall trees. It means they range from smaller plant to the larger plants or taller plants are present. Okay, what is the tallest tree species of a gymnosperm? Okay, there is a plant known as giant redwood tree. So the plant is known as giant redwood tree. So this is one of the gymnosperm. Redwood is a gymnosperm. Okay, the scientific name of this plant is known as sequoia. So this plant, which is the tallest tree of gymnosperm, which you can grow even up to 100 meters height. So this is very, very important from the point of a NEET. So they may ask a question in the NEET regarding this. Okay, you must know this. And next one is their morphology. I told you already, plant body, you know that is differentiated definitely. Plant body is differentiated into roots. Okay, plant body is differentiated into roots, stem and leaves as usual. Okay, so this characteristic starts from the pteridophytes. Pteridophytes plant body is differentiated into root, stem and leaf. In gymnosperms, plant body is differentiated into roots and stem, leaves. And similarly in case of angiosperms, you know that very well, their plant body is well organized and well differentiated. Okay, so one more very important thing and easy to understand that I can tell you here in their morphology. Morphology means these external characteristics. Okay, there is something speciality in the roots of these plants. When you think of roots, okay, roots of these plants, there is something speciality. What speciality is present? Okay, in case of a pinus plant, okay, the roots are associated with fungi. Okay, so this is in case of some gymnosperms, roots are associated with fungi, and this association, what we call it as a mycorrhizae. This association itself is called as mycorrhizae. It is a symbiotic association between the roots of the gymnosperms along with the fungi, and this symbiotic association is called as a mycorrhizae. Okay, both live together and both are benefited with each other. Therefore, this relation is called as a symbiotic association or symbiotic relationship, and that relation is called as a mycorrhizae. So this is in case of a plant like pinus. This you can find in plant like pinus plant. Very, very important from the point of a need. And one more thing is, in some plants, okay, like cycas plant, okay, there are smaller roots. Smaller roots are present, and these smaller roots are present in association with nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, nitrogen fixing bacteria. They are associated with nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. Nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria are present here along with these smaller roots, and this association, these smaller roots are called as coralloid roots. So these are called as coralloid roots. Okay, these coralloid roots are present in case of a cycas plant. Example is cycas. Okay, these two are very important from the point of a need. Okay, you please remember here, and this is one speciality in case of a roots of these plants. Okay, I told you already, there is something speciality in the root. Similarly, in case of gymnosperms, when we come to the characteristic like stem, okay, there is again something speciality in the stem. Okay, stem may be unbranched. So this is as in case of a pinus plant. It is in case of a cycas plant. So in case of a cycas plant, stem is unbranched. Unbranched stem is present, or this stem may be branched. Okay, in some gymnosperms, stem is branched. That is in case of a pinus plant. So in this way, there is a speciality in the stem also. Stem may be branched or stem may be unbranched. And when we come to the leaves, okay, in the leaves, okay, in these plants, these leaves, some plants have needle-shaped leaves. Some have needle-shaped leaves. What is the use of presence of these needle-shaped leaves? Where it reduces water loss. The plant reduces the water loss when the leaves are needle-like. Okay, if the leaves are broader, more number of stomata are present and excess loss of water takes place. To avoid that, these plants will have a needle-shaped leaves. So this is one speciality in the leaves. And another one is they have thick cuticle, presence of a thick cuticle in these plants. So this is thick cuticle which prevents loss of water from the leaves. So this is another speciality in case of a leaves. And one more thing is they have sunken stomata. So this is next important characteristic which is present in the leaves of these gymnosperms. Okay, because of the presence of this sunken stomata, and that wind current will not influence the plant. for evaporation. So therefore loss of water is minimized here. So these characteristics in the leaf, they prevent the water loss from the plant body. They can manage their water balance in the plant body. So these are all morphological specialities or peculiarities in case of gymnosperms. And when we come to the process of reproduction of these gymnosperms, and these gymnosperms as far as their reproduction is concerned, I can explain like this. Okay, what are the reproductive specialities here? Okay, so they can produce spores. They are mainly heterosporous. They are mainly heterosporous. All the gymnosperms are heterosporous only. Okay, we have to think here while studying this biology. You have to understand about the lower plants as well as higher plants, and also the plants which we are studying right now. You have to go on comparing so that you can get an idea. Here, when we think of the pteridophytes, where most of the plants are homosporous and very few plants are heterosporous, but when it comes to gymnosperms, they are all heterosporous. So there is something speciality, something evolutionary significance laid in this heterosporous nature. Okay, it shows that ability to adjust to the environmental conditions when the plant is able to produce a different kind of spores. Okay, so heterosporous means they produce two different types of spores. One is called as microspores. So they produce microspores, and another one is called as a macrospores or megaspores. So megaspores, they produce two different types of spores, microspores and megaspores. These microspores and megaspores, these microspores, they are produced in a structure known as sporangia. They are produced in a structure known as sporangia. Whatever the spore it may be, microspores or megaspores, they are produced in a structure known as sporangia. Okay, sporangia are the bag-shaped structures in which the spores are developed. These sporangia are developed on leaves or leaf-like structures, and these structures are known as sporophylls. Okay, sporophylls. What are these sporophylls? When the spores are developed in a structure known as sporangia, sporangia developed on the leaves called as sporophylls. Sporophylls are nothing but leaves. Okay, these sporophylls, one more thing you have to understand here, these are spirally arranged and form a compact structure known as a lax. So you should understand the word here. Sporophylls are spirally arranged to form a complex structure known as a lax or strobili. Lax or strobili. Okay, or cones. So these structures are produced by the spiral arrangement of sporophylls. And now these cones or strobili are of two different types. One is called as a male strobili or male cone, and similarly female strobili and female cones. Okay, here male strobili are of two different types. Male strobili. What is this male strobili? So this male strobili is made up of microsporophylls. So these are made up of microsporophylls. These microsporophylls are made up of microsporangia. So you can understand here microsporangia. These microsporangia are made up of microspores. They are made up of microspores. Okay, so this is what the composition of this male cone. So this male cone, first of all, male cone is made up of microsporophylls. Microsporophylls have microsporangia. Microsporangia contains microspores. These microspores are later microspores. You can understand here microspores. They develop into a highly reduced structure known as pollen grains. So they develop into pollen grains. These pollen grains contains male gamete. they contain male gamete. So this is all regarding how male cone is produced. Similarly, one more thing here. Okay, so this is regarding this male cone. And one more thing is female cone. Regarding female cone or female strobili, female strobili or female cone, which is made up of megasporophylls, which contains megasporophylls, and these megasporophylls and also megasporangium, megasporangia, or which is also called as ovule. Megasporangia or ovules, megasporangium singular, megasporangium, okay, or it is also called as ovule. So these two together forms a female cone or female strobili. And when it comes to the megasporangium or the ovule, so this ovule structure, okay, this ovule structure which is made up of, okay, it has got a tissue. Ovule contains a tissue. This tissue is called as a nucellus. Okay, this tissue is known as nucellus. Here you can see nucellus. Students, please don't get confused with the word with nucleus. Nucleus is different. Nucellus is different. Nucellus is a nutritive tissue which is present in plants which bears the seeds. Okay, so from this nucellus tissue, one cell of the nucellus which undergoes differentiation, and this differentiated cell is called as a megaspore mother cell. Okay, from the nucellus tissue itself, one cell gets differentiated, and the differentiated cell is called as a megaspore mother cell. This megaspore mother cell, it undergoes a kind of a cell division known as meiosis. It undergoes meiosis, and there is a formation of a 4 megaspores. So out of these 4 megaspores, one becomes functional. Okay, in this way there is a formation of a megaspore takes place. And this functional megaspore has got one or more archegonia. So this megaspore, functional megaspore, it contains one or more archegonia. So in this way, what happens here? The structure of female reproductive system which is present in case of gymnosperms, and this archegonia contains egg. Archegonia is a flask-shaped one which contains egg. Okay, it contains egg. Okay, so these pollen grains are retained in the main plant, and even egg is also retained in the female gametophyte only. And these pollen grains are carried by wind current. Okay, these pollen grains are transported. Pollen grains are carried. Okay, pollen grains are carried by air current. Air current is nothing but the movement of air or through the wind. The pollen grains are transported, and these pollen grains, they make a contact with the mouth of the ovule or archegonium, and afterwards fusion takes place between this pollen male gamete and this egg, so that which develops into zygote. That develops into zygote, and a zygote develops into embryo. Okay, and so this entire ovule, you know that one more thing, it is surrounded by an integument. This embryo is completely surrounded by one or two layers of integuments are present, and afterwards what happens, this embryo zygote is developed into embryo, and whole ovule or female gametophyte, it develops into the seed. Female gametophyte, okay, this ovule, megasporangium or ovule, it develops into the seed. Okay, there is a formation of a seed. This entire ovule is developed into seed, but the seed is not covered by a fruit here. Seed is not covered by a fruit, hence seeds are naked here. Therefore, so these gymnosperms are commonly known as naked seeded plants. So that I hope you have followed how the process of reproduction takes place in case of a gymnosperms. Okay, I started the word here. These are called as naked seeded plants, and how naked seeded plants are formed, that is what I explained here clearly. Okay, thank you very much with this. So this salient features or life cycle of the gymnosperms is over. Thank you.